Remember what it was like to be a kid? To explore and play. To roam free all day. In Jamestown, North Carolina, we get out of the grind and escape into the moment. People feel good here. Let loose here. Eat well here. Feel swell here. We go for a ride or an afternoon stroll. We cheer each other on. And go for the goal. Here, a treasured history meets the energy of a town on the rise. In a place with true heart and soul, and where we have our own special beat. Jamestown, North Carolina, where history and possibility meet.
Blanchard, would you lead us in the pledge? Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads for a moment of silence. Thank you. Council, do we have any changes to the agenda?
I'd like to request that the proclamation declaring September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week be removed from the consent agenda and added to the first item after the public comment period, and to remove the consideration of contracts for services with the Jamestown Historic Society, JYL, YMCA, and the Jamestown Public Library.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. And do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended?
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Nobody signed up.
Thank you. Nancy Mason, would you meet me at the podium? We have a proclamation for Constitution Week. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law. And whereas September 17, 2023 marks the 236th anniversary of the framing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document, its memorable anniversary, and the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate it. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore I, Lynn Montgomery, by virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the town of Jamestown, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week in the town of Jamestown. And we thank you for being here.
I'd like to present you with these bells. So, we'd like to present you with a bell.
Thank you very much.
And here's some Constitution booklets for everyone.
We'll
Thank
have
you.
them available.
Thank you very much.
And turn your proclamation around. Picture. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. Appreciate you. Right. Anna, we have the public hearing for the consideration of the amendments to Chapter 17, signs of the land development ordinance.
Good evening. These are the same changes we went through last time. I have about 3 or 4 additions since then that I want to go over. I won't go over all 30-some pages again. But at the last hearing was continued to tonight's meeting without further advertisement. So a couple of things. Councilmember Strawn noticed on page 62 of your packets for flags, we had a double negative, so actually flags needed to be at least 30 feet or higher, the way it was written. So that's been changed. Nothing in Jamestown is higher than 30 feet typically. After that,
I'm sorry, was that on the flags there?
yeah, it's green in your packet.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it said, shall not be displayed on flagpoles not exceeding 30 feet in height, so. The other one was that no more than 1 flag shall be displayed on a zone less than 1 acre in size, and no more than 3 flags displayed on zone lots of 1 acre or more in size. Lots of people have more than 1 flag flying at their homes. They have a garden flag, a regular flag. It didn't quite make sense. And so the way we've interpreted this is that it was probably originally meant to be permanent flagpoles. So you could have 1 permanent flagpole on a lot less than 1 acre, but if you want to have more than 3 flagpoles displayed on a zone lot of more than 1 acre in size. So that's been just clarified. Additional change, Councilmember Wolf asked, and this is not displayed in your packet, we talked about this today. On 74 of your packet, it talks about abandoned signs. And the last sentence was, after proper notice of violation and failure to act by the owner within the time frame established in the notice of violation, but it doesn't actually say what that time frame is. Proposed change would be failure to act by the owner within the 30-day time frame as established in the notice of violation. 30 days is what we've typically done in the past. I think that's fair. They can always ask for an extension if need be. The only other changes from last month's meeting were the ones that Beth had suggested have just been put in here as well. So the thing that I think most people talked about and have asked me about are digital signage, the digital changeable copy sign. Again, my recommendation is to have them permitted in civic, commercial, and bypass zoning districts. I would suggest that instead of just saying for number 1 digital signage, I would request digital changeable copy signs, so you're not confused with a open sign that could be digital. We are talking about the signs that change the full message. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I understand there'll probably be some discussion about it as well.
I have a couple of clarifications. I just want, same discussion that we had in the briefing basically was that this is in by no means stifling anybody's constitutional right to display who they want to win this, that, or the other.
Absolutely not. You can
As
put
well
whatever
as-
you want on those flags, and as much as
As
you.
well as many flags as they want to put on their own house.
We would,
because freedom of
we would
speech
have a
is-
lawsuit in a second if we tried to stifle that.
And again, that was just some of the confusion of the folks that, or one person that talked with me, just didn't understand why we were taking their flags from them, and
Yeah.
I wanted to assure them that that was not the issue.
Absolutely not.
Any other questions for Anna at this time?
I'll wait till after the public hearing.
Okay. All right. At this time, we'll open the public hearing to anyone who would like to speak for or against, or just has a comment about the changes to the development or the sign ordinance. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and return to council. And now you have discussion.
Oh, okay. Well, one thing, Anna, I did want to ask you on page 65, the murals, and you know, it states on here, you could have the graphic art or combination of painting, whatever, on a building or wall or a window, and it talked about it should not be allowed to have a whole window to be the whole thing covered up. My example was there the corner of Ganaway and Main Street, where that window, the whole window it's like a billboard, so to speak. And it's not just aesthetics, I would think for public safety. If, you know, you can't see into the building or into the business what's going on, be it a patron or be it law enforcement, and you get a call, you can't see what's going on in there. And it may be listed somewhere else in here. It used to be a certain percentage could only be covered up of a window.
Yeah, so if it's a sign, we can limit that.
Oh,
But if it's, I mean, because they don't have to have a window on the side of the building, they just happen to have a window on the side of the building. If it's a sign, we can limit the size and such, but if they want to put up a mural on the side of the building and cover up their window, they can do that.
well, I thought it, I was making me think about when we had it was a vape shop that had opened up. Of course, it was in the wrong zoning too, but all the windows had all kinds of they weren't signs, but.
They're blacked out.
Yeah, and vinyl, I guess, things on it. And I believe we had told them too, they could only have, I keep saying 30%, but I don't know that that's true.
I do think there is something about windows.
And it's probably,
There was,
maybe in a separate place, but it's I would think that could be a public safety issue.
there was a limit. I know when I had the general store,
Yeah.
you couldn't put up to so many in advertising for the business, but if it was for sale, it was a different story. And then, you know, the law enforcement effort there is truly that, to be able to see what's going on
What you're walking
inside
into, yeah.
as a drive-by or whatever. But as well, you know, people are protecting their property inside by putting that one-way screen so that UV doesn't come in and affect, and that limits your ability to look in. So, I don't think we can limit that. I wouldn't want to limit that because we're potentially damaging people's property. But if it's, eat here, we have this amount of this, that, and the other for sale or whatever, then there was limitations back in 2010.
Yeah.
But I
And
don't
it's a
know.
lot more common now to put them up as screening for, like, the sunshade ones that are more popular. And they're just, people are using them for advertising as well, and so we want to make sure, we say you can call that a mural, but if you're advertising that you can't have a sign. And I did talk with school government and make sure we could do it that way, and it is allowed as long as at the planning director's discretion to say this is a sign, branding, logo.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Okay.
I can look and see what we have in here about,
Okay.
but I might have to do a Control F and find
Oh, yeah,
where the window is.
yeah. I just wanted to just think about to clarify that. And then my only other comments, of course, were about the digital signs. And we have talked about, some of us have received complaints from the one that's on West Main Street. And I know the staff has done well to work with him to try to lessen some of that lighting that's coming through to the folks that are across the street from it. But it seems it's still a bother to them. Of course, I understand that we need to be sensitive to businesses, but the residents must also be able to be considered to have their right to quietly enjoy their property. And like I said, I think you learn from past mistakes or experiences, so if we've had this happen here, then I think we ought to pause and think about allowing it anyplace else. And which got me to looking more at our comprehensive plan and why we had the sign ordinance, which has been through many generations of changes. And I keep referring back to when DOT widened Main Street. That's when the town started doing a more restrictive sign ordinance. And the saying at that time was we didn't want to look like High Point Road. And you wanted to know when you came into Jamestown, you come into someplace different, a different identity and a different sense of place. And our signage and our street lamps and our streets look different. So it was trying to maintain that identity. And I don't see where digital signage being in any district encourages that or helps maintaining that sense of place. It's just my feeling on it. And as you know, we have said, there is a master signage plan provision to where an owner can make application if there's something they desire or they think they need that's not in the sign or it's not allowed, which goes to the planning board and then to the council. So that's my thought, is I don't see how the digital signs really enhance our identity.
I agree with Martha. We've thought about it over many months and, talked to business owners and individuals and certainly have heard from people. And I haven't heard anyone say that they think a digital sign enhances Jamestown in any way. So I think if there is already a way through the master signage plan that somebody could submit and perhaps get an option for that if they really felt that was the best thing for their business, or nonprofit, whatever it happens to be, I think that, that's already covered. So I would prefer to not have digital changeable copy signs in town. Of course, you mentioned before about the gas station, making sure there's a carve out for the little gas station box on the sign that has the price of gas and that kind of thing. But, I think as most people talk about digital signs, their understanding of it, I don't see anywhere in town that would be a benefit.
I remember, it's been 8 or 9 years ago, but we had a proposal to have a digital full-blown board behind sheets, and the same conversation took place.
Yeah.
And it was basically that it didn't fit us, it didn't fit who we were, and it didn't really follow what we're trying to accomplish with Jamestown. So I was on the planning board at the time. I wasn't in favor of it, and I'm still not. So that's pretty much where I come from, except under a special provision where, again, the business can propose something and go through the channels, and then if it makes sense, we can support it.
So I will just give you an overview, and for anyone watching, the master signage plan, how that works is it goes through a similar process to rezoning. I'll use that because we have those more often than master sign plans. We would advertise to the surrounding businesses or residents, landowners. We would have a planning board meeting, and staff would present a report, then it would go to town council, and then you would make a decision. So the master sign plan was designed to permit creativity in sign design and placement. So there's plenty of places with site constraints or issues with topography, pedestrian orientation. So that's why it was, and so you can ask for things that aren't typically allowed. At that point, the planning board and council could determine if there were impacts that could adversely impact neighboring uses or the community as a whole. Like there's light pollution would be an excellent reason to say this maybe isn't a great solution. My suggestion is, my professional opinion is that civic, commercial, and bypass zoning would be appropriate areas. As a planner, we look at what land uses are compatible, what things are okay to be neighbors. So these have very few neighbors that are residences. They're primarily business on business. We've taken out all those transitional areas. So the doctor's office, that was a complaint in one of the hearings, it wouldn't be allowed there right now anymore if this was passed how it's presented, because that's not civic, commercial, or bypass zoning. So that is my opinion. We can certainly adjust it if the council prefers to have them go through the master sign plan process. and I can kind of give you what that would look like if that is what you would prefer.
Well, you talk about the bypass, well, specifically Harvey Road is what I was thinking about, if it were allowed there. And I rode up and down Harvey a couple times today again. There's a lot of land there, and we have no idea what somebody may make application, to do there. And there's a lot of houses there. And so I certainly think that you'd have the same situation you're having here, so why do that? Why set yourself up for that? Or the people that live there, why set them up for that? So I just really am not in favor of having it anywhere in town. I don't think that contributes to our identity or our sense of place.
Is there any discussion on any of the other changes?
I believe
Other
the
than the
other,
digital signs?
I believe the other amendments on the landscape, of course, and the pet waste and the permitted use tables, I believe they are appropriate. So I would like to sort of see us separate that out and have a vote on the sign ordinance and then a vote on your other amendment.
The way it's advertised, I don't believe we can do that. I have, because I suspected it might go this way. I can tell you what my suggestion would be for a change. It's actually not, I said, well, we're going to have to have a whole new meeting, but I actually think my recommended change would be to change 17.7-2A, number 1, where it says digital changeable copy signage shall only be permitted in civic commercial bypass zoning districts, to change that instead to say digital changeable copy signs must be requested through the master sign plan process as outlined in section 17.10.
So why would we need to have it that way if we don't go through and say every other non-permitted sign type and give it the same?
Because we could also still at that point keep the time, brightness, and display things that we know we need and will prevent issues that have happened in the past.
I would really prefer for it to be on a true case-by-case basis and, that have to be part of their master sign plan. Because I feel like with the LDO, I think that well-meaning business owners and individuals, look to this for guidance. And so I think if they look and they see digital signage, maybe that wasn't something that occurred to them. And they see that we are promoting that because we're highlighting that in ways that we're not highlighting other non-permitted signs. And, maybe they would want to go in that direction, whereas, with other signs, if they're just looking for what can I put here, we give them guidelines for what is accepted, and then, yes, there's always the other option, but I don't see a need to call that particular type of sign out if we're not also calling out,
The other
like the
things.
waving guy that's not allowed, and like the flying banners and,
Well, then we would need to add it to the prohibited sign section.
right.
Those are temporary signs and there's different laws, so
Okay.
we would need to add that to the prohibited sign. And it's not truly prohibited because you're allowing it through a master sign plan. But we can put it in the prohibited sign and then they can ask for a master signage plan. In which case, at that time, you would want to define all those same properties.
And you would define those properties on a case-by-case basis if and when it was presented?
Yes.
Okay.
You can always define them on a case-by-case when it's presented. If you leave them in, you have some guidelines to start with. And you can always look back in the minutes and see what those guidelines were to start with now, but that would be the main difference.
Beth, do you have any suggestions on those comments?
I feel like Anna's suggestion was probably about the best you could get if you wanted to separate it out and have a crack at looking at each specific sign. I normally am not totally in favor of direct prohibitions on things, but in this particular case, we're regulating the type of sign, not the speech on it. So I think you can draw a line there.
Thank you.
And are you going to need to have some revision to this document before the council would actually consider passing it?
That's up to you. I can revise it and have one to you next month, or you can pass it as presented with the changes as requested. But either way is fine.
I would prefer to pass it with the changes rather than
already in place.
wait another month.
And those changes would be effective immediately.
Yes.
And then we'll get the corrected ordinance.
Well, I can send you a copy, but
Yeah.
once it's adopted, it'll go to Muni Code and be updated on the website as well.
Grandpa mode is still in effect though, right?
Yes, everything must be grandfathered that's written in there. So we cannot make someone remove a sign just because we've changed the rules. So.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So again, that would change number 1 under 17.7-2A to digital changeable copy signs must be requested through the master sign plan process as outlined in section 17.10. We would remove from the signage table on
No,
page-
that would move it under prohibited signs and sign characteristics under 17.5 and just omit the entire digital signage section.
That's what you want to go with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's,
We will move prohibited signs and sign characteristics. We will put digital changeable copy signs as one of those bullets. We will remove, I would suggest leaving section 5, 6, and 7. That allows for menu boards, time, temperature signs, and fuel station.
Yeah,
Remove from the sign table on page 69 the suggested digital section, and remove the mention in number 7 under fuel pricing, the mention of digital messaging shall meet the standards outlined in 17.7-2A. It's a mouthful, but if that's how you'd like to do it, you can adopt it
Yeah,
as,
so that-
as proposed.
yeah, that leaves just where they can have just the gas prices, yeah,
We don't need to see those.
which is changing constantly, going up. That's true.
Anything else you'd like Anna to take care of while we're revising this?
But as I said, the other changes, though, I have no problem with.
Yeah, it's
So-
as presented, so we can check with the clerk, but I think if it's as presented, it would be everything with those
Yeah.
changes as requested by the council. Is that?
But you did not want to vote on it tonight until you saw.
no, I want to vote on it with the changes tonight so
Tonight?
that.
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, do I have a motion?
Well,
You
this-
probably need to have them again next month though, just to make sure the changes are what you worded the way that you want them to be.
Well, I said,
worded.
once we adopt it and we get the corrected ordinance, then if there's another change,
I
if we
think
have to
you-
go through it again,
Yeah,
for
we
some reason
discussed
it was
that.
not interpreted quite like it came
Yeah,
out.
you'd have to re-advertise them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Do it till we get it right, yeah. Do it till-
Or we could continue this portion of our public hearing. We've already closed the public portion. We could continue this council discussion to the next meeting where we have the completed document in front of us.
But then if somebody submits
Yeah.
in the meantime,
Yeah.
if
Some-
there's all of a sudden a rush on digital signs,
Yeah.
which there has never been in the history of the town, but if there is,
I got my
there-
permit request in.
good.
I'm with you, that's why I would like to go ahead and do it.
Need a motion.
So I would move to approve the amendments to Chapter 17 signs and the LDO as amended.
This is a roll call.
Yes, so let me just clarify, as presented with the suggested changes.
Yes.
Okay, so, and who was the second? Okay.
John?
Councilmember Wolf,
Aye.
Councilmember Capes,
Aye.
Councilmember Strawn,
Aye.
Councilmember Rayburn,
Aye.
the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
And you're back up again,
Well,
Anna?
on the consistency statement,
I'm sorry.
and of course, I have made mine, if, I'll make the motion, it'll be up to the council if they agree. Now, I made mine separately, so I had made a motion to propose the zoning amendment be denied for Chapter 17 Signs Amendment, because it's inconsistent with the adopted Town of Jamestown Comprehensive Plan, because it does not protect established neighborhoods from encroachment by incompatible land uses through appropriate application of zoning regulations. And the proposed Chapter 17 Signs Amendment is not reasonable because it does not promote and maintain the quality of life and aesthetic standards that our residents in Jamestown expect. And the proposed text amendment to Chapter 17 signs is not in the public interest because it does not seek to preserve the culture and historic value that provides an everyday reminder of the town's proud past and does not contribute to the town's identity or sense of place.
Can we do that backwards and improve it because it does all those things now as,
I mean, you wrote that
Those
before
changes.
the changes.
Before, we say it's consistent if we're going to make those changes. Okay.
Sorry.
So,
If that motion is not seconded, it dies for lack of a second.
Okay.
But if you guys want to restate a motion for consistency,
consistency. So
it'll have to be reworked a little bit.
it is consistent. Well, as we have changed it, then it would be the proposed Chapter 17 amendments is consistent, right?
correct.
And you want me to read it again, all the other words, or just changing where I've got the proposed Chapter 70 signs amendment is reasonable because it does promote and maintain the quality of life and aesthetic standards that our residents expect. And the proposed text amendment to Chapter 17 is in the public interest because it does seek to preserve the culture and historic value that provides an everyday reminder of the town's proud past, and it does not contribute to the town's identity and sense of place. It does contribute to the town's identity and sense of place. And I'm stating it's consistent because we are deleting it from being allowed.
does that work?
Does that clear that up?
Yeah.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. But then I did a consistency statement for the Chapter 11.5 landscape and the Chapter 19.30-1 pet waste and the permitted use table be approved. And that is consistent with the adopted Town of Jamestown Comprehensive Plan because periodic updates to zoning text are necessary based on changing condition, regulations, and laws. Updates are necessary to ensure the land development ordinance is in compliance with current general statutes and applicable laws. And the proposed amendment is reasonable because this amendment to the land development ordinance is in compliance with state and federal laws that the town is required to follow. The text amendment clarifies the language with minor changes in Chapter 11.7 landscape, Chapter 19.30-1 pet waste, and the permitted use table to make the chapter easier to interpret and apply. The proposed zoning text amendment to Chapter 11.5 landscape, Chapter 19.30-1 pet waste, and the permitted use table is in the public interest because it will assist the town in the administration of the land development ordinance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Anna, we have a consideration of acceptance of a Gold Star Memorial marker from the Cedarwood Garden Club.
Yeah, this one's a little more fun. So the Cedarwood Garden Club would like to purchase and donate no longer a Blue Star marker, but a Gold Star marker, memorial marker, to be placed in Jamestown's Ren Miller Park. This is a program through NCDOT, and Charlotte Gardner here to speak a little bit more about it. But the request would be to accept the marker and with placement in Ren Miller Park. And the veterans have been briefed on this. They're excited and are happy to put this on the memorial and will be involved in the placement of it. So I'd like to invite Charlotte Gardner up to speak.
Hello, I'm Charlotte Gardner. I'm a member of the Cedarwood Garden Club, and we just decided we needed to sponsor something special. And this is a marker that started way back in 1945. The Garden Clubs of America decided they wanted to honor our veterans. And the garden clubs are the only people that can do these markers that we're trying to get for Jamestown. So I wanted to tell you about it. I had never really knew too much about it. But you've probably seen these along the highway, and they're called memorial highway markers, and they're quite large, and they're on a pole, but they're only for the highways. They're not for areas in a town. So now they have markers. They're called byway markers, and they're just for civic places and parks, smaller things. And they're a smaller plaque. They're 20 by 12, and they're mounted on some type of a board, a masonry, brick, flat surface. They're not on a pole. And I've been in touch with the chairman, and she's from New Bern, North Carolina. And she's very excited to think that we would get one over here because they have very few of them in this side of the state. In fact, there's only one in Greensboro, and it's a memorial one on a highway, and it's somewhere off of Wendover Avenue, and I don't even know if anybody's even seen it, but it's in one of those circle things. So I was in touch with some veterans, and they're very excited about it because this is a real honor for them. And they asked me to have a gold marker, and the gold marker, the gold star, represents the ones that have fallen. The blue star is for all the armed forces, and the gold star never have a certain family's name on it. It's for all the ones that have fallen. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be glad to try and answer them.
Any questions?
And you said the veterans had agreed to it, the
Oh,
Jamestown
yes.
veterans, and
Oh,
are very excited
they're
about
very
it.
excited about it. I mean, this is quite an honor for
It is.
them, and, you know, think about it, we haven't really done a whole lot for veterans lately.
Yeah, oh, yeah, yeah.
So, and our park is so special for that, I think.
No, this is exciting. Thank you so much for bringing it to Jamestown, and I love when civic groups work together to
Right.
beautify and do something to benefit everyone, so that's very exciting. Thank you.
Well, we're excited too.
Thank you, Charlotte. Do you have a motion, Council?
Yeah, we certainly make a motion to accept the Gold Star Memorial Marker for installation in Rim Miller Park with the condition that Jamestown Veteran Committee approves the placement of the marker, which you said they have done.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. And Paul, we have consideration of award of the contract for the dam project.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yesterday, we opened bids for the Jamestown Park Dam Number 1 Storm Drainage Improvement Project. We had 2 bids. We were hoping for more, but it is in the informal bid range, so we could open with 2 bids. The low bidder was Dillon and Griffith Enterprises at $260,240, and Brees Enterprises was the other bidder at $277,750. Our estimate was $210,000. That's what we had in this year's budget. So we would need to request a budget amendment. Budget Amendment 7 has been presented for tonight. But after we opened the bids, we confirmed the numbers, and we set up what I would call a value engineering meeting yesterday to see what can we do to get the number closer to or on budget. There are 3 items in particular we looked at. We're looking at one item that is somewhat redundant, that we can reduce the quantity of that item, which will reduce it and hopefully and that would save money. The bottom drain valve, I thought the pricing was high, to get very specific. So we looked at options to reduce the cost of that with the bidder. We'll look at that as a change order to try to reduce the cost of that one line item. Sometimes in a bid, of course, I'm on the design side, not the bidding side, but something may get interpreted and they're presenting a Cadillac where we just need a good, solid product. And then the last item we've discussed is we have 500 yards of off-site soil material built into the contract, which typically that's going to be used where we have poor soils. We're not seeing a soil issue. The problem is with the pipes in it. The pipes are just in very poor condition. So we're not expecting anywhere near 500 cubic yards. That's 50 dump truck loads. That item would be $27,500. So we're optimistic that it will come in less. We will have a soil scientist on site doing compaction tests, looking at soil quality, soil type, so that we get the right material in the right places, because the core is different than the slopes. So with that, of course, I'm requesting approval of the overall project, but we have to request a budget amendment first, which Budget Amendment 7 is part of the package.
Mine would be Faith. Is that doable?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And that will not be encumbering the reserve fund? It will not be encumbering the reserve, any of our reserve fund, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the budget amendment so that we can move on to the contract?
I move to approve budget amendment number 7.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
And thank you for working with them. I know that's part of what you do, but
We're
that's really
trying.
helpful to explain the different pieces and what you're doing to try to get that down, so
Yes,
hope it works.
we do want to reduce it.
Yeah.
And, no, I mean, thank you for approving Budget Amendment number 7. And of course, the final request is to award the contract to Dillon and Griffith Enterprises in the amount of $260,240.
Motion to award the contract to the lowest responsible bidder, Dillon and Griffith Enterprise LLC, in the amount of $260,240 for the Jamestown Park Dam Number 1 storm drainage improvements, and authorize the town manager and finance director to execute all documents.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Paul?
Let me just reiterate one thing on that, is the ARP is going to pay $210,000 of that, so Jamestown residents are not paying $260,000 out of the general fund.
Correct.
Just wanted to reiterate
That's correct.
that.
Thank you.
Kathy, do you have a manager's report for us?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a couple of quick updates on our major projects, the golf maintenance building. They're finalizing some of the interior components. That's our strategic plan, goal number 5.6. I said estimated completion date will be in September, but it looks like we have a few more weeks of work to finalize some things there. One of the keys is getting power to the building, so we're waiting on Duke Energy and Piedmont Natural Gas to complete their work to get gas and power to the building, hopefully not at the same time.
Well, Duke Energy's been on East Fork Road for several weeks.
Yes,
They got
yes,
them right
they
down
have.
the road there.
Yes, they have.
Yeah, yeah.
We've
So
endured
that-
those traffic.
Did y'all see if, in the recreation maintenance contract, about there being any financial liability on their part for time delay?
Paul, would you like to address that? Time delay issues, or, I don't think there's anything of their doing. Ask Paul to jump in there.
Well, sometimes you have a clause in there that
We
if
do
they're not
have
completed
some.
by so many days, and they have to start paying
Right.
money, and money's a motivator, so I thought it might get them.
Right. Yes, the liquidated damages, we have not reviewed it with the architect, but I know one item was, it took Piedmont Natural Gas a very long time to start bringing that service into the site.
I went out and looked at, I went out to the golf course as well, but went out and looked at the building, and I noticed above the office areas, the piping that's going to the HVAC system looks like used piping. It even has clamp marks and things of that nature, and looks like it's been run over by about 7 different trucks before it was installed. Is that something that can be looked at to make sure it's structurally?
We will take a look at it. Yes.
I mean, it yells at you when you just look up. It looked like something picked up off the side of the road. And again, there's clamp marks where it's been clamped and installed, or at least looks like it's been installed once before.
We'll take a look at it. Pleased to say that the renovations at Town Hall are nearly 100% complete. We're just waiting on the final from inspections from Guilford County. Golf course bathrooms are very close to being completed, I'd say within the next couple of weeks. The finalized, the fixtures will be installed, the tile work is being done now, and that represents goal 5.10. Pleased to say that we had probably what is the largest turnout ever for our Music in the Park event on Friday, September the 1st. We do appreciate everybody who came out. Our next event will be Friday, October 6th, and that will feature the Ryan Perry Band. They are a country band. We'll look forward to having a great selection of food and beverage vendors. You can find all of our information on our Facebook site. That's goal number 2.3 of the strategic plan. Public services staff have completed renovations of the brick walkway around the fountain at the library. I know some of you may not even seen that happen. Our public services staff, I want to extend a big thank you to Jason Pegram for looking over that job, and James Conrad. They were able to save the town a couple $1,000s over the quote that we had from a contractor to do the work to remove the plant material that was damaging the sidewalks. So we did that in-house, and then we had a contractor come in and relay the brick around the walkway there so it's nice and level, and install new landscaping so that that won't happen again. And finally, I wanted to say that litter sweep will be this Saturday, September 23rd from 9 to 11. Rain or shine. Elizabeth wanted me to make sure that, we communicated that because it will be a possibility of some rain on Saturday. So rain or shine. And if you're interested in participating, contact Elizabeth Greason here at Town Hall for information on that. There are a list of key dates there as well. If you have any questions about anything, I'll be glad to answer them.
I was out the golf course, obviously, and made it a point to ride around and talk with folks playing, not while they're teeing off, but usually when they're cussing the ball as it's gone down range or getting onto the carts. And not one single person that I talked to had anything bad to say about the course, about the quality of the greens, about the quality of anything that has to do with the course itself. I know recently we had somebody who had some rather interesting comments about how awful it was out there, but I didn't find one single person. And I made it a challenge on myself to get as many as I could, even the ones putting, and at the driving range too, that said nothing derogatory about it. As a matter of fact, I have one that wouldn't tell me which municipal course, but said they're a manager thereof, and said this is better than ours has ever wanted to be. So just hearing that kind of comment, and then seeing, when people talk about how, our grass is a millimeter off, or whatever the case may be, it just makes no sense to me when you really look into it and talk to the people who are actually golfing.
We appreciate it. I will communicate that. It's difficult to maintain a rate of play or place of play, the type of play that fits everybody's golf suitability. So we are working on that, and I've talked to Jamie about it and Marcy as well. So we're very aware of that, and we're using feedback from everyone, so I appreciate that.
Well, and I will echo that. I'll talk to someone, I asked them about the greens, because I'm not a golfer, and you know that. But they said, no, we've never had any complaints. They're in great shape.
Good.
So I don't know,
When you hear him talk about what actually goes on out there, to stand at the podium telling us the things that he tells us that they put on the effort that goes and resources that go into keeping that course the way it is, you think he's a scientist. I mean, he's like, he works for NASA. I don't know. He's doing something. He's growing something that's doing really good. But when you experience it and get out there and you talk to the people who are actually using it, they're very appreciative. So,
during the October meeting, I think that's our quarterly update, and in your briefings, we're going to have Jamie come. He's got a tremendous amount of information with the computer system that they use to track what they do. And I've asked him to give that information to you all, as well as the public at the October meeting, to help people kind of understand the challenges that they face out there, because you're right, there's a lot of science.
Well, I hope with the golf course bathrooms, there's at least consideration to do a toilet paper ribbon cutting. Because you're losing.
I've not thought about using that, but we will look heavily into that. Do you have a preferred brand?
Whatever the town uses.
Okay,
But-
very good.
But also, I saw the guys working at the library, and, removing the trees, and I know there, people have strong feelings about the trees, and they were beautiful, but honestly, they did such an amazing job. I drove past it, after they put the plantings in, and it's like, nothing's missing. I mean, I thought there would at least be a period of time where it's like, well, there's, it's kind of an awkward phase, but it looks perfect. It looks as if that's how it's always been.
They did a fantastic job, and I know there's a couple of places where they were using as a staging area. I've got to get the grass to kind of come back, but other than that, you're right, it's very difficult to tell, sort of,
It looks like it belongs.
It does.
I got walked around it too, and it's
And-
all
and
very
certainly-
nice and level. Yeah.
It's, you don't think about how you had to really look down and not
Yeah.
trip before.
Yeah.
It's a huge improvement, and it just looks great. They did a wonderful job.
The crepe myrtles were also a maintenance concern for the fountain, and I know Jamie and his crew are sort of appreciative that we've got an evergreen there now, so.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. Council, do we have any committee reports?
I do not. The TAC meeting is next Tuesday, and they did not have a park meeting this month.
Nothing from my end.
Anything from you, Lawrence?
I'm not really sure. No, I'll wait for other business. I have none.
Okay.
Planning board did not meet.
Okay.
Actually, I do. Did you get a replacement through Alan for a
Not
meeting?
yet.
Okay.
Not yet. Okay, do we have anyone signed up for the final public comment period?
Nobody signed up.
Thank you. Other business, Lawrence?
Not knowing why we took these, the contract proposals off the table, I just want, before I forget, is, I know that one in specific that I went and checked with the YMCA, just confirmed that, residents are actually getting discounts. So I went in and asked what it would cost to join, and they had a price sheet that showed the initial sign up and then the cost per month if you got it withdrawn. No indication at that point that there was a discount or any sort of a discount for Jamestown residents. So I asked and immediately flipped to another page, and it said, noted Jamestown proper residents, and then he had me give an address. I did. He said, you get 10% off. So they, not only do they have a way of tracking it, but they also go into, are they Jamestown proper? I know that's always been a discussion and a question. So they are going through that. However, there was nothing that was, blaring, Jamestown residents get 10% off. But having said that, they are accounting for it, and hats off to how they're doing that.
There's something bothering me a little bit here. I want to go back and talk about the motion that we made to deny the sign ordinance amendment. Do we need to add to be effective tonight or effective immediately?
To
that motion?
approve the amendment?
To the sign
He's
ordinance?
asking
I just
about
want
the
to make sure.
timing of the,
Yeah. Do we need to say
Amendment
to be
is
effective immediately?
You can restate it.
I would like to amend that so we're clear that it's effective immediately.
Second.
Okay.
can that be?
Would you want me to say it all again? I'd be glad to.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I make a motion to deny the amendments to Chapter 17 signs in the land development ordinance to be effective immediately.
Second.
Well,
Wait,
let's hang on a second.
Hold on,
Whoa, whoa,
hold
whoa,
on.
whoa.
Because that's not what the
We're
original.
going to approve.
I can restate since I was the one who did.
Okay, I'll let you do it.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, I make the motion to approve the amendments to Chapter 17, signs in the LDO with the proposed changes effective immediately.
There you go.
Second.
So,
Do you want another roll call?
yeah.
Yeah, let's, just give me 1 second. All right, Councilmember Wolf,
Aye.
Councilmember Capes,
Aye.
Councilmember Strawn,
Aye.
Councilmember Rayburn.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you so much for doing that.
Any other business?
No.
Do you have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.